afternoon and welcome to Football League World TV. It's time for another edition of the Transfer Zone. My name is Ben Wignall and I'm delighted to be joined by my colleagues Billy Mulley and Chris Gallagher today. Billy, how are you getting on?
Yeah, doing well, thank you. Second show of the day, so I'm hoping hoping it all goes well.
Yeah, we've been kept very busy. Time to talk about some transfer stuff after the debate show about the away grounds and what the best ones in the EFL are this morning. That was a fun one to do. Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, gearing up for should be a hectic few days, I think, shouldn't it?
Yeah, transfer deadline is on Monday, and as ever, we've got a lot of transfer news to talk about. Well, we are broadcasting as ever across Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you've got any comments about the latest EFL transfer news, please feel free to do so, and we will feature them in the show. Let's get straight into it with our first done deal. Sheffield Wednesday have been active again in the transfer market. They've made their third edition of the window, and it's another loan as Harley Dean arrives from Birmingham City. The 30-year-old was surplus to requirements at St Andrews last month. Lee Bowyer dropped him from the team, and now Dean's dropped down a level to bolster Darren Moore's defence. Of course, he's not the only centre-back to arrive at Hillsborough this month, with Jordan Story also arriving from Preston North End. Billy, I'll come to you first. Was this a position at the start of the month, that really needed addressing by Moore? There's quite a few injuries since, October time. Do you think Harley Dean fits the bill at League One level for Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, I think it was definitely, in terms of getting a centre-back in, I think that was always going to happen at Sheffield Wednesday this month. I think, as you say, looking back to October, the injury that had been dealt, it looked like a position that needed bolstering, and adding a player like Harley Dean, I think, is going to be brilliant for their expected playoff push. I think they needed a little bit more stability at the back. They did possess sort of a better defensive record at the start of the season, but I think that's it got worse as the season's progressed so far. So I think having a player like Harley Dean with the experience he does have, the physicality he brings, leadership skills as well. There's a lot to like about Harley Dean as a footballer and what he can bring to Sheffield Wednesday. I think looking at his what his situation was at Birmingham, I think he was dropping down the pecking order. Obviously started the season as captain as well, but dropping down the pecking order due to the options that Bowyer had at his disposal. And I think they've might have recently shifted back as well to a back four. So I think that's only hindered his chances of playing regular football at Birmingham. But he's for me is at this stage of his career, he's a top end League One player, lower end Championship player. So I think Sheffield Wednesday have got a good player in Harley Dean. It'll be interesting to see if he can help shore up that defence.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of Championship experience, for Birmingham and for Brentford, where he's involved in a few playoff pushes for them. He's been linked with Championship clubs this month as well. The likes of QPR and Cardiff were linked, but interesting to see him drop into League One, albeit with a big club like Sheffield Wednesday. Chris, it's only a loan deal for Harley Dean, but if this goes well for him, can you see a permanent deal perhaps happening in the summer? He's got a year left after this loan on his contract at St Andrews. He's probably on a sizable wage. Do you think it's something that Sheffield Wednesday could potentially look into? If he does perform well, which a lot of people expect him to do at League One level?
I think it'd be tough with the finances if they are still in League One, because as you mentioned there, and he was a big signing for Birmingham at the time, so he will be on a decent wage. So I'd say if they are in League One, it's going to be tough. But if they get promoted, then yeah, there's every chance it could be permanent. And it does look like a good move for all parties here, because he'd fallen out with Lee Bowyer. The Birmingham fans had lost a lot of patience with him recently, so he needed to get away really. And this is a chance for him to play for a big club, to play every week, and I think he'll quickly become an important member of the team. So yeah, this is one that it's down to him now if he does well, and then he's obviously got to perform to try and get a move. If it's not Sheffield Wednesday, it'll be other clubs watching. So he's playing for his future really, because he won't want to go back to St Andrews.
Yeah, he could be putting himself in the shop window with good performances this month. Now let's stay in League One for our next done deal, and it concerns Sunderland. Yeah, Sunderland, like Sheffield Wednesday, another club who've been busy this month. They've already added Trey Hume, Danny Bath and Patrick Roberts to their squad, and they've been joined by Tottenham youngster Jack Clarke. He signed a deal until the end of the season on loan. Clarke signed for Tottenham for 10 million in 2019 from Leeds United. He had a breakout year that year for the Yorkshire side, but since then he has had several EFL loan spells back at Leeds and then QPR and Stoke without featuring too much for either club. Billy, do you think this could be, a make or break loan move for Clarke? It's hard to see him featuring at Tottenham anytime soon, even though he did appear once in the Conference League when they had a pretty slim squad to choose from. Do you think he has to show something at Sunderland to make sure he goes to, flourish at Championship level or beyond in the future? Because he's had a pretty stop-start last few years, hasn't he?
Yeah, I definitely think it's make and break in terms of his Tottenham career. I think if he's unable to consistently perform in League One, then Tottenham might be considering what his future may be. But if he doesn't succeed at Sunderland, I don't think that will be the end of him, say, at Premier League level in the future, because he's still very young. I think he's deceivingly young, because I always think that he's a lot older than he actually is, but he's still got his a massive career ahead of him. In terms of Sunderland as well, I think it's a really good move for him. Of course, again, he was linked with Championship clubs, but I think coming down to League One, really competitive, top end of the division as well, could be massive for his development in terms of a confidence booster as well. Struggling to pave his way at Championship level, but I've seen him within Tottenham's under-23s this season. Every time I've seen him 3 or 4 times now, he's been excellent, shining in a team where Dylan Makande was playing as well. So it just shows sort of that kind of level that is in the under-23s, because it like League One, it's still a very competitive division, and Premier League 2 specifically is very, very competitive. So I think it's make and break in terms of his Tottenham career. A very, very good player. I think when you think of Jack Clarke, I think that the loan moves he has are quite premature in his career. So now he's at a stage where he's coming into these loan moves, and he's got the confidence behind him of performing very well for the under-23s. And he's also got that bit better on the ball. I think he has trained with the first team as well, quite closely in the last couple of seasons. So I'm excited to see how it happens. You think of the attacking talents that Sunderland do have. You think Pritchard, Leon Dajaku, and Patrick Roberts now as well. It's going to be heavy competition for Clarke to play week in, week out, but I think that will only bring the best out of him.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition there. So I've got Aidan McGeady to come back from a long-term injury as well, so he's another one for Clarke to compete with. Chris, what are your thoughts on this deal? Do you think he can flourish at League One level? It's not a level he's played at before. He's been playing in the Championship and then under-23s football for Tottenham. Do you think this kind of step down a level is something that might be needed, to get him some confidence back playing in men's football, apart from under-23s?
Yeah, I think it is a good move for him. I think with his style of play as well, you want to be playing in an attacking team, really. So he's playing for a Sunderland side that, I wouldn't say dominate all the time, but they have a lot of possession. They're on the front foot, they attack, so should be suited to him. The big worry would be the competition for places that you've mentioned there, because it's like some good players are going to have to be left out. So I can't imagine he's going to be thrown straight into the team, considering how the others have done. So might have to be a bit patient. But on the face of it, it does seems a good move for him, and because there's a lot of expectation at Sunderland as well, so it's like a good environment for Tottenham to send him to, because he needs to help them to get promoted. So I think you always think back to him at Leeds, don't you, when he broke through? That was like we all saw him rip up the Championship, really. So I think we can still remember how good he was then. It is a long time ago, but if he can get even near those levels, he's obviously going to be a really good player in League One and a good signing.
Yeah, I think we expected Clarke to have flourished by now. Maybe this will be the loan spell that gets it out of him. Well, staying with Sunderland, they also had an outgoing yesterday as well as Clarke coming in. His academy graduate and local lad, Denver Hume, departed the club for League One rivals Portsmouth, a fee in the region of £175,000 plus add-ons included. Hume was in the middle of what was a contract standoff in the summer. His deal ran out and he rejected several new offers from the club before finally signing one. He's only played 4 times all this season, Billy, before departing this week. Do you think Lee Johnson could have, potentially used him a bit more often than he did this season? Do you think that kind of standoff they had in the summer may have, impacted on his potential playing time this season?
Yeah, I think the standoff definitely has played a big part, and you know he hasn't got the game time at Sunderland. Perhaps that's quite just, but I don't think I don't think that means that he's not going to sort of flourish at Portsmouth just because he's not flying high with one top team. Sorry, in League One, it doesn't mean that he'll go to Portsmouth and not be as good. I think he's a very good player. He's shown that the interest that he's attracted as well in the past. I think that's another indication to what kind of the kind of player that Portsmouth can expect. And yeah, it'll be interesting. I think he brings a different dynamic to their current options. And you know, Lee Brown has been an excellent servant for the club, but I think with Denver Hume in the side, he's someone that brings a bit more attacking edge. And you know, I think he once we see him play a little bit more, I think he does have that quality as well in the final third. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses at Portsmouth. Obviously, another team with big aspirations. He's going to a club with similar expectation levels as Sunderland. So he's going to have to be at those levels of performance right from the very off.
Yeah, and it's easy to remember he did have some injury issues last season. I think he went off in the playoff semi-final against Lincoln with a hamstring problem that kind of affected him going into the new season where he wasn't ended up being first choice. Chris, what about Portsmouth in this deal getting Hume? Do you think this is a good signing for him? You know, I think Rico Hackett-Fairchild's been playing at left wing back since Danny Cowley switched the systems up. He's a natural kind of wide player, but further forward. Do you think Hume will slot straight into that position, you know, at left wing back as he arrives at Fratton Park?
Yeah, I do. I think the Sunderland fans weren't too keen on him towards the end, but I think he had proven to be a decent, good player in League One. So I think as well for the fee that's been reported, it's quite a good deal for Portsmouth, and I do think he will be able to slot into the team and bring a good balance because, as I say, he has played left back, but he obviously can go further forward as well. So it's a role he won't really take much time adjusting to. So yeah, I think this is it's a good deal all round. Really, Sunderland, he wasn't in the 11 and he wanted to move. So you want to let a player go when they don't want to be there. And Portsmouth needed to strengthen that area, and they've got someone who can fill in this position, specifically what Cowley wants. So yeah, it looks like a good deal.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Hume gets on away from Sunderland and at Portsmouth. Now time for a Championship done deal. Hull City have today confirmed the return of midfielder Regan Slater on a permanent deal from league rivals Sheffield United. The fee thought to be in a region of around £50,000. Slater was on loan at the Tigers last season when he won League One. He played 27 times under Grant McCann, but only 12 of those were starts. I think when this was rumoured to be happening last week, the expectation was that McCann was his signing and he might be staying around, but obviously we now know that he's departed and Shotta Overlodzi will be coming in at the end of the week, which means that Slater will have to impress a new manager instead of coming into one that he's already worked with. This deal, you know, was apparently done with the blessing of the new owner, Ajin Ilakali, with the new owner liking what he saw of Slater when he saw him play for Hull last season. Billy, do you think this is a shrewd move for Hull to bring Slater back? You know, a fee of £50,000 for a player that, you know, is a young lad who has a decent pedigree at Sheffield United and played a lot in League One last season. It seems to be a pretty cheap bargain, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems a bargain at this stage. If you think the persistence really pays off, I think going into the start of the season, I think they were quite interested in him to bring him in the summer, but it wasn't something that Sheffield United were quite willing to do. So the fact that they've done it now, they'll be quite happy with the addition. I think it's quite strange how McCann's leaving and they still are just as interested. It does suggest that it's coming from higher up as well. It wasn't just a McCann signing. It's something that Ilakali is interested in doing. And I think it'll bring a lot to Hull at the moment, progressing very well in the Championship. And I think what he does bring is that tenacity, that grit. He's good on the ball as well. So he's a player that will suit pressing high and winning the ball back, and then also getting on the ball and not shying away and starting attacks. So he's that all-round midfield player that I'm looking forward to seeing regularly in the Championship because I don't think at Sheffield United he would have got that chance. You know, that they're a very, very talented squad at Sheffield United, and a midfield that's quite experienced, and that's what Heckingbottom goes for, and hasn't been too many opportunities, if any, this season for Slater to get in for regular contention. So yeah, I think in terms of the move from Slater's point of view, it's brilliant. For Hull's point of view, it's brilliant, and for Sheffield United, well, they'll have to wait and see if they rule letting him go for quite a small fee and at a young age of 22.
Yeah, Chris, looking at this from a Sheffield United perspective, obviously Billy just mentioned that the experience options in Sheffield United midfield means that Slater didn't get a chance in the end. Do you think they could have, given him a chance either, in the cup or, later on towards the end of his time? He didn't make a single appearance in the league or cup for them, when he returned from his loan. Considering Sheffield United haven't shown what we know they're capable of this season, is it, perhaps a surprise that Paul Heckingbottom didn't give him a few run-outs? He gave Daniel Jebison his chance last season, and he managed the under-23, so you think he knows what Slater's capable of. So you're surprised that he didn't, give him a run out to see what he was capable of?
Yeah, I think you always want to see the younger players given a chance, but it is hard when you are the manager. I think when you see Sheffield United, when they beat Luton, they had Sander Berg and John Fleck on the bench. So when you've got that level of players on the bench, I don't even think Fleck came on. It is a lot more difficult to justify bringing in a youngster. I know the results haven't been great, but yeah, I suppose it's natural to go with what you know, and they do have a lot of quality centre midfield players. So I think it is just a case of Slater being at the right club at the wrong time. Really, there's just too many bodies in front of him. So it's, in theory, he's going to do that. He'd have had to make some really big decisions, and it's a risk, isn't it? Because we don't know if Slater will be a success in the Championship. So you're always going to stick with what you know. So yeah, I can understand why he hasn't played, and I think it's just a case that Sheffield United's midfield is too good at the minute, on paper at least.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Slater does get on away from Sheffield United and at Hull on a permanent basis. Don't forget to leave your comment, whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, about the latest transfer news, and we'll be talking next about one of the bigger talking points in the transfer window this month in Brennan Johnson. Johnson's been a revelation for Nottingham Forest this season after his loan spell at Lincoln last season. And Premier League clubs have been tracking the youngster all month, but it's been Brentford that have led the race. A huge development came out last night though, with Forest turning down a club record bid for the Wales international. It was thought to be in the region of £18 million, and they're insisting that he will not leave in this window despite the big offers for his services. Billy, that's a lot of money to turn down for a Championship club, isn't it? Are you surprised at Forest's stance, or did you expect him to reject it all along? Because yesterday was kind of the sense that it was in the hands of Forest owners, that they didn't know if it was going to be accepted or rejected, but it finally did come out that it had been turned down and he's set to stay. Is that a surprise to you?
Not really, because I think he brings so much in terms of this expected promotion push that Nottingham Forest are currently on. He's been integral to that. The pace he brings, the final third quality, the unpredictability factor as well. He's such an exciting player who could quite easily go on and move to Brentford and be a star in their side this year. He's that talented that he could make the step up to the Premier League this year and as early as January, and play very, very well. But I think Forest are wise to keep hold of him at the moment. I don't think that's going to be the end of it. We've got a few more days, and I'm sure a lot more will go on. I can't imagine waking up and not seeing a Brennan Johnson headline, because he's just one of those at the moment. Other transfer windows, there's been those names, and I think we'll always remember this one as sort of the Brennan Johnson transfer window, where he just sort of dominates the headlines, and rightly so, because he's a very exciting talent that I do feel Forest need to keep hold of, because I know that even if they do sanction his departure, they've got some quality options that they're currently looking at. Jed Wallace and Josh Bowler, Scott Twine, I think they're interested in as well. All really, really good players, but I think Brennan Johnson he brings something different. That pace he has got, his ability to beat a man, it's really exciting to watch him play football, and hopefully for us EFL fans, we get to see him for what remains of the season.
Yeah, he's definitely showing some good form as well, just when Forest fans probably don't want it with all the the transfer speculation surrounding his name. Chris, coming to you on this, Johnson's got 18 months left on his deal, and earlier in the season he did turn down a new deal at the club. We know how good Forest are right now. I think since Steve Cooper came in, they've won the second most points in the league behind Fulham, and up into the playoff spots now. There's a genuine chance they could win promotion this season. If they don't win promotion, though, do you see an offer of something along the lines that Brentford have put in for him now being accepted in the summer? They'd be in a quite precarious position, Forest, wouldn't they, to reject something like that with 12 months of his contract to go, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think all Forest fans will accept it. The last 6 months they'll see a Johnson unless they win promotion, and that's all they can do, really. The board have stood firm with a big money offer, so that's all you can ask, really. They're rolling the dice that they do go up, but yeah, if they don't go up, they've got no chance of keeping him. I think they'll still be able to get a big fee because of the level of interest in him. We know Brentford have pushed the hardest this month, but there's been a lot of talk as well, like as Billy mentioned, there's a lot of speculations. We've had Newcastle, I think, and West Ham maybe at times, Leeds. So there is a lot of interest. So if he keeps performing as he is, that's not going to go away. And then they'll still be able to, if they can get an auction going in the summer, they'll still get some good money for him. And yeah, that will be needed for FFP purposes to give Cooper money to reinvest into the squad. So yeah, I think Forest fans can all understand what the board have done this month. They're gambling that they'll win promotion, but if not, Johnson goes, and I think that's the right decision.
Yeah, you kind of get the feeling that there still might be more in this saga to come with Premier League clubs coming in for Johnson before the end of the window. Now, from one club on the A52 to the other, let's look at Derby County. The future of Tom Lawrence has been well discussed in the last few days, but if today's reports to be believed from Football Insider, the club's administrators have turned down approaches from promotion contenders QPR and AFC Bournemouth or the Derby skipper, and they've insisted that Lawrence isn't for sale and he'll remain at the club until the end of the season. That's despite him being a top earner at the club. I think reports put him on 37 grand a week before the transfer window opened, and there's been a lot of speculation this month surrounding his future. He's got 8 goals and he's been a top performer for the club this season. Billy, let's come to you. Oh, the administrators, doing the right thing here. Lawrence is on a big wage, but he could be the difference in the end, couldn't he, when it comes to Derby potentially surviving the drop this season into League One if they continue the good form and his personal form, couldn't he?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, I think, for the administrators, because obviously he's one of the top earners. He can generate a handsome enough fee, but at the same time, he is integral, not just because of his attacking contributions, obviously club captain this year as well, leadership responsibilities that he has. And I think that's massive for Derby this season. They've had a lot of young players coming through, so having those senior figures like Tom Lawrence and Curtis Davies has been massive. And I think that's been integral to their survival push at the moment, because it's been brilliant watching them, and when they've been dealt setbacks, I think it's on the shoulders of the likes of Lawrence and Davies to ensure that those young players are not too disheartened by it or put off by it. So it's I think he's got more than the usual responsibility this season, especially with everything going on behind the scenes. Yeah, so in terms of, can I see him leaving? Will there be further interest? I think there might be. It might be a tactic from the administrators to try and push this to the very end and generate as handsome of a fee as they can. But at the same time, do they risk trying to sell a lot of their star players and risk leaving the squad quite thin to, try and ease the financial condition that they're in? I think that's going to be the one that will go down to the very wire. I'll be interesting to see, because obviously Lawrence has been brilliant this season, and I think he could have a big impact at some of the clubs that have been monitoring him. He could have a really big impact at the top end of the division and could, help a team that are chasing promotion get there, because he possesses that bit of quality, that final third sort of prowess that's needed to, go on and get glory in this division.
Yeah, leading on to that, Chris, do you think there'll be any, fresh bids for Lawrence before Monday's deadline? And do you reckon he could change, the administrators' stance on his future? We're not sure what value the bids have been at from QPR and Bournemouth. But if takeover talks, don't progress in the next few days before the transfer deadline, we know they've got that month-long extension now to provide the proof of funds until the end of the season. Do you think there could potentially be a chance that something changes and he does leave to one of these promotion-chasing clubs, or do you think Quantuma will stand firm and back Wayne Rooney and let him keep his captain?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule anything out yet because of we obviously, as you said, we don't know the value of the bids, but you can't imagine there've been much because clubs are trying to take advantage of Derby's situation and with Lawrence's contract expiring, so you can't imagine they're putting up good value bids. But that could change. We all know how teams panic, and getting someone who can create and score goals is what everyone wants, don't they, in the top of the championship? So I wouldn't be surprised. And then the administrators do have a big decision to make because obviously they're not really just looking at this season, are they? Got to look at the bigger picture for Derby. They've got to look at beyond the deadline on Monday night. So they're not going to be in a position where they can resist some bigger offers. And I would expect some movement on that. It's not to say that obviously it's hard to speculate without knowing the bids, but I think clubs will make another move for him, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, I think QPR have said to have been moved on from Lawrence now after the rejected bids, but they are looking at alternative options and to boost the ranks creatively before the deadline. And Swansea City's Jamie Paterson's a player that Mark Warburton's very interested in bringing to West London. Paterson's first few months at Swansea this season were quite electric, scoring 8 goals and notching 4 assists. But in the last few weeks, he's been in a dispute with the club over his contract. It was extended by a further year by the club. They triggered an option that they had, but he could end up departing by Monday's deadline. Billy, would he be a good alternative to Lawrence? There's not much in between him and the stats. They both got 8 goals this season. Paterson's 2 years older, at the age of 30, and he's probably had a few more injuries than Lawrence in recent times. But you'd imagine he's probably a bit more affordable than Lawrence, wouldn't he?
I'm not going to question Warburton for too long, but you think with Elias Chair and Willock as well, that they're 2 of the best in the division, and to bring another of the division's best like Jamie Paterson, you'd think one of them might have to sit out, and I just couldn't imagine having those 3 in a team and one of them sitting out. Of course, he could tinker with the formation and try and include them all, but they're all best just behind the striker, and I think not out wide as those sort of number 10s, 2 number 10s just either side of the striker. So that will be quite an interesting one because Jamie Paterson started the season off incredibly. I think in sort of October time he was probably the division's best player, and everything that he brings, he's just got that Midas touch where everything turns to goals, and he's been very, very good adapting to Russell Martin's style of play almost seamlessly. And it's unfortunate for Swansea fans that this situation's playing out as it is. He's not too happy with the contract situation. So it's somewhere that if Paterson was to go somewhere, I'd like it to be somewhere else than QPR, because I can't imagine him being in the side where you're sort of second guessing will he be starting, because I think he deserves to be starting at the top end of the Championship.
Yeah, personally, I was a bit surprised that QPR do want another attacking midfielder. They've got a lot of options, haven't they? Elias Chair's obviously at the African Cup of Nations in Morocco, but he'll be back pretty soon. And Chris Willock's been pivotal to the recent good form of the Hoops. Chris, is there a way in for Paterson in this system? That Warburton plays. He likes to play 2 behind the striker, or do you think he'll have to change it, because it's hard to see those 3 players in Willock, Paterson, and Chair, should the deal happen, be happy to have 2 on the pitch, and obviously one's going to have to be rotated coming off the bench. Do you think Warburton can keep all 3 happy if Paterson does sign? I think it's going to be hard to do that.
Yeah, I certainly don't think he'd obviously change the formation or anything. So the one would have to be left out, and it would be tricky. But I suppose we know how quick the games come in the Championship. So loss of form, injuries, suspensions, then you've got a chance. So I can see why QPR are going just to get more depth for the running, and the chance to join a side that are going for promotions obviously going to appeal to Paterson. So I think I could see it happening. It would be difficult, but you want a lot of quality, don't you? That's the teams with the best squads generally are up there, and QPR know that if they do suffer injuries to key men, they maybe are lacking in certain areas. And getting in a player like Paterson, who can also, he's an intelligent player, he probably could fill in different roles if you did need to within the team. So yeah, I think it would be a good signing and one that would work out for all parties.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any of the Championship clubs do jump on his potential uncertainty at Swansea between now and Sunday. Now, time to look at one more final done deal of the day. And it involves Birmingham City, who in the last hour have tied up a loan deal for Rangers midfielder Juninho Bacuna, the Curacao international signed for the Scottish champions from Huddersfield Town in the summer, but he's secured a swift return to the EFL, albeit on a temporary basis. He's played 11 times for Rangers in all competitions this season, but he appeared to be well down a pecking order under new manager Giovanni Van Bronckhorst at Ibrox, of course, replacing Steven Gerrard, who headed to Aston Villa. Billy, is this a good signing for Birmingham? You know, they have a few midfield options. They've got, Sunjic, Woods and Gardner. They've got, young Jordan James, who's kind of emerged this season. And, of course, Taylor Richards, who signed from Brighton earlier in the month. Does Bacuna offer them something different in terms of kind of, driving at defences from that position, as opposed to the other players they have?
I think when it was confirmed that McGree wasn't coming back, I think that's when Birmingham fans, I think, would have had sort of this aligned thought that they would go back into the market and try and find somebody that's operates as central midfielder, but also has that influence in the final third, like McGree did for them. He's obviously a very talented player, and it hasn't worked out at Rangers, but we've seen the ability he has got in the Championship before, and even the Premier League. He's a player that 24 years old, still got a very long career ahead of him. So yeah, it'll be. I'm quite excited for it, but at the same time, he does need to prove himself. He hasn't. The sort of lack of football in recent months at Rangers means that he's not going to be probably as fresh as we remember him at Huddersfield. But at the same time, we all know the quality he does possess, and from an attacking sense, from a chance creation success, I think he could develop a really good relationship with the forwards at Birmingham, and be that sort of link that's been missing since McGree. Since it was confirmed that McGree wasn't going to come back, and you think to Heath Chung as well when he was playing centrally as well. The void of creativity, I think that's there. Hopefully that can be filled now, and I think that's going to be key for what remains of the season, and turning those draws against Peterborough to all 3 points.
Yeah, he's definitely a creative player, as we saw at Huddersfield in the last few seasons. Chris, what do you make of this deal? He was in and out of games for Huddersfield, and he was quite an inconsistent player. He'd look like a world beater on his day, but he could go, missing in odd games. You think he can be a very exciting player for Birmingham if he's on his top form?
Yeah, I think he is certainly a frustrating player, isn't he? As you said, he can go from the highs to the lows very quickly. But yeah, I think for Blues, I saw their Peterborough game, and they're so bad really for 85 minutes. They lacked a lot overall. So it's not just midfield, but yeah, they had the players that did play. I think you had Sunjic and Woods and Gary Gardner came on. He did score, but they're all similar. They lack pace. They lack a bit of dynamism in the middle of the park, and I think Bacuna will give them that. So I think he does offer them something different, and he can. And that is a major plus, because he'll run past people, he'll close people down, which can raise the tempo and get the fans going. So yeah, he is something different. He's exactly the sort of player that they need. He's not, as we've said, he's not. He is frustrating, but he does score goals, and he will make things happen. I think Birmingham's position they're in, they're not going to be able to get the finished article players, so they have to take a risk. And I think Bowyer will fancy his chances of working with Bacuna and just trying to make him a bit more consistent, maybe tactically disciplined. He'll have to work on that side of it as well. But in terms of what he does offer, he brings qualities that Blues don't have at the minute, so that's a real positive.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he fits in. Boy's been kind of experimenting with a few different formations aside from his favoured 3-5-2 in recent weeks. And of course, you've got the likes of Taylor Richards to come from injury to make his debut. Well, that wraps up the latest edition of the Transfer Zone. As we get closer to Monday's deadline, it's sure going to be very hectic in a few days' time with all the latest bids and deals going on. Thanks to Chris and Billy for joining me. We're back again tomorrow at the same time where Sam Rourke will be back hosting. We also have the betting show and the weekend preview tomorrow, as we always do on a Friday, as well as a debate surrounding the goings on at League Two's bottom club, Oldham Athletic, which I believe Billy will be on with. But for now, take care and goodbye.